Hello guys, it is me Victoria, and in today's video I'm going to explain to you what I think is an extremely important concept to understand when it comes to women, and how many of you guys out there, I don't think you know this, and it's causing problems. So basically what it is I'm calling it the runway to peak arousal. Okay? Other people have called it things like escalation, I think. All right? But basically, the idea is that a woman needs basically a smooth build up, like a runway, to get to peak arousal. So basically, what it looks like for me, let's say I want to have sex with my boyfriend, and he just instantly tries to grab me and, or just stick it in or something. No, no. It's very rarely going to work unless I'm already aroused. Instead, it needs a build up. I have been wondering about this for a while. I'm like, why do I need this like beginning, middle, and end? Why is it so important for it to start slow and build? I'm not sure. It just does. And I think like most women would agree it's the same for them. Um, so for example, when you like what I would want is, start by touching the hand, then go to the non-erogenous zones of like the arms and the legs, then the neck, then the face, then the kiss, then the hair. You see, it's slowly building towards more and more intense things. And then that's what I have like on my graph here. Like I have first talking about your feelings. That is, let's say this is a 0 to 100 scale. That is a 1. But the thing about this runway to peak arousal is you can't skip the 1. That's part of the runway and you have to build. So, a lot of times I'll want to like just kind of talk about my day or my feelings, and my boyfriend will be thinking, oh, I guess you're not really interested in having sex. No, I am. But see, that is the 1. I am trying to get myself on the runway to desire. And even if I already know I want to have sex and I'm already turned on, I still need the runway for some reason. I still like the talking about my feelings. That clears everything and relaxes me. So it's like when the pilot in the cockpit is, checking the checklists and stuff, I'm like, okay, let's go. And then, ideally, it would be cool to have some like words of affirmation or compliments, then the light touch, the really like gentle touch. But then, it's slowly building. So as we get here, like the kiss on the face, then we get up to like sexual compliments, okay, a little more like dirty talk stuff. And then getting into some like fetishes, and then getting into the really sensitive parts of the body being touched, like for me, my breasts, okay? And as I talked about in another video, the examination kink, it's big for me. So to be looked at is very intense. So next, something even more intense comes, having, these parts of my body looked at. Then getting up to higher on the runway, just about before liftoff, I'm gonna want more like dominant stuff. More like kinky, dark monogamy as I used to call it, all my crazy dominance kinks, and then getting right before orgasm, I'm gonna want that peak male sexuality. If he even wants to talk about like stuff that I would never want to hear about here, I'm okay with it because I'm turned on. So as you see here, we have time on this axis, and here we have arousal. So you see, as time goes on, you're getting more and more aroused until you reach peak arousal up here. And then right at peak arousal, I'm going to want the most intense like intimacy possible. And then here, when it kind of, your arousal goes down just a little bit, but you kind of want that like aftercare and like loving stuff. So the thing a lot of guys don't understand is for them, time here, they're aroused here. Okay. So they're not understanding this slow buildup that is so necessary for girls. And in fact, they're missing a lot of, um, okay. So right up here, I have what I'm calling, well, down here, I'm having the friend zone, where, it's a lot of time you're taking and little arousal. You've completely missed the runway altogether, and you're off by like the drainage ponds at the airport. Okay, yeah, you're spending a lot of time, but you're not doing any of the things that would lead her on her runway to peak arousal. And then up here, I have what I call the hookup zone, which is where you all think girls should be naturally, because that's where you guys are naturally. And you think that because they're not there, that reflects badly on you. Like, oh, you're not attractive enough. You're not. You're just like a reject or whatever. You're beta, whatever. You're not masculine enough. But have you even been doing the things that would put her on the runway? Have you even been understanding that there is a runway, that there is a progression? Or have you just been expecting her, you know, oh, we're on a date and she's not looking at me and being like very sexually aggressive and being sexually forward with me? Yeah, yeah, okay. No one is, no girl is, except girls who are, I don't know, those 5% of girls who naturally don't really have like boundaries basically, and they're just very flirtatious, very sexually aggressive. And I don't want to put those girls down, but they're not like a lot of other girls. Let's just say that. Um, and so you're waiting, you're kind of thinking, oh, only some girls are like that, but most girls aren't. I guess I don't understand why. Yeah, because most girls are gonna need this. On a date, they're gonna need the same progression. They're gonna need you touching their hand, you touching their elbow, their shoulder, and then you're gonna be able to touch the waist. You're gonna talk about, small talk, and then you're gonna be able to talk about things about her appearance, and then you're gonna, move into the gaze, the kiss, the let's go to another place, let's sit closer together, let's go to my apartment. Do you see what I'm saying? There's always a slow escalation and slow build, and many of you guys just aren't doing that, it seems like, and you're just expecting for the girl to be like you and to be little time, maximum arousal. Yes, sometimes on rare occasions it does happen that a girl is already aroused for some reason and she's on a date with you, and then, wow, this crazy hookup happened. I mean, like for me, when I was dating, sometimes that would happen because I would be like at home and I would be thinking, I need to have sex tonight. Like I don't know, I don't care. Like it has to happen. So I would already be kind of like high arousal, like I'm ready. Let's do this. Okay? And that's not really that normal. It happens, but it's not going to happen all the time. So another thing is that if you know, basically a lot of you guys in the last video you were saying, well, I should be able to talk, I should be able to be myself, I should be able to be mode 1. So I should be able to talk about like extremely sexually explicit, dominant things right off the bat. Well, it's not going to work well, okay? Because yes, maybe if you're getting someone who happens to be at high arousal already, then your comments about peak, male sexuality, she's going to be receptive to them because she's basically already warmed up. She's already taken herself on this runway. But let's say she's not warmed up and you start trying to skip the runway and and go just straight to, peak arousal by making some really sexually aggressive comment, most girls are going to be like, ew, like gross. Like even a girl who maybe would be really into that when she is aroused. For example, you know, like there's so many examples I could give about this, but speaking of mode one, I was thinking about this today, and he's always saying, I'm really like dominant about my like sexual interests, although I believe he does say only when he's close enough to talk in the left ear. But basically, let's just say you were saying something really sexually explicit. He always says the girls get really angry, offended, like, ew, how dare you? But then the next day or something, or a week later, they call him up and they're like, yeah, let's hook up. Because they're probably at home, they're probably turned on, and they start thinking about what he said. And because they are already turned on, they are able to receive him like, yeah, that's hot. Okay, call that guy. Okay, so yeah, it's a strategy. I guess you can choose that strategy if you want. However, I think, this can be very helpful for you to know that you have to progress 0 to 100. Think of it as a plane on a runway. You need to have a slow and steady progression from least arousing things to her most arousing things. And yes, this is going to be different, slightly different for everyone, because what's most arousing to her may be different than what's most arousing to me. Like, I have my peak fantasies that make me basically orgasm, and those are going to be different for me than they are for other women, but they're kind of a lot of times in the same categories, like, really kinky stuff. You want to make sure she's very turned on so she can like hear them. Things that are very like physically intense, again, when she's turned on, like she can receive them. Like for me, if I have like my breast touched when I'm not turned on, it feels absolutely nothing like the way it feels when I am turned on. When I am turned on, it's an amazing, incredible, like mystical feeling. When I'm not turned on, I'm just like, it's too much. It's almost like painful because they're not like warmed up. So I don't know like the best metaphor, but I like this runway thing, okay? So you need to stay the course. You need to make sure you are initiating these things that will help her become aroused. And you definitely need to not expect that, just like men, women will already on a date with you when you've not done any of the things that would cause her to progress along the runway. um, you need to not expect her to be here, peak arousal, low time, um, without you really having like built it. And that could take some time. It's going to take some effort. I mean, it could all happen in one night. I'm not saying it has to happen over weeks or months, but that's another way that the progression can happen. And a lot of you guys are just like skipping out before then. And then you're like, why aren't women attracted to me? I'm like, well, I don't even feel like you guys are on the runway here. So yeah, I hope this helps. I hope this makes sense. I was talking about like my first date with my boyfriend, and I was kind of remembering like there were times where he kind of tried to push things too far, and he said, oh yeah, like you acted really cold. And I'm like, yeah, because I wasn't like ready for that. And I was kind of thinking, this guy's like skipping ahead too far on the runway. It's not time for that yet. So I think a lot of women have these same thoughts of like, they want a certain progression, and simply that progression is a slow build up from least arousal things, like literally just like touching the hands. That is a good way to start going on the runway. Or sorry, even before that, just talking about, stuff like feelings, small talk, compliments, hands, arms. I don't know, hair's kind of intimate, but then the kissing, and it has to slowly build. I feel like I've probably said this enough. But there's a lot of things that can be on this too, like different like certain kinks of mine are good for certain like progression on, or certain areas on this progression. Like for example, I really like kind of some kind of like physical foreplay, kind of almost like a wrestling kink. And that kind of comes like earlier in the progression. That kind of makes me feel relaxed and ready for what's coming next. And, at my peak arousal, that's when I want to hear, the casual matrix, even. That's when I'm like open to hearing about just like a man's true sexuality. But before that, it's not gonna like turn me on. In fact, it's just gonna be more like, ugh, like now I have to kind of like focus hard to erase that and get back on the runway myself. And so that's another thing about this, is that this is the path of like the fastest path to orgasm. This slow progression. And you might think, oh, let me just skip to like here and then it will be faster. No, it won't, because you'll kind of be going here. And I wish I like knew more about like planes or something. Maybe there's some good analogies. But basically, the quickest route to arousal is getting on that runway and following it till liftoff. Okay, so don't rush it. And I hope you found this idea helpful. Let me know in the comments, and I will talk to you guys later.